I cursed out my best friend's wife Anne when she said, "I really want to have sex with you and Jay will never find out." At the bar, she cock-blocked me with a younger girl and then things got heated. I warned her, "You're a dirty bitch." But now I wonder if she's cheated before. Should I tell Jay? Am I the asshole for cursing out my best friend's wife in public? I'm a 32-year-old male who cursed out my best friend's 34-year-old female wife for attempting to proposition me. The background to the situation is that my friend and I have been working together for the past 6 years. We both work in the service industry, and during the first 2 years we traveled to various locations to perform our job duties. Over that time I witnessed him marry his wife and have a child. I felt proud of the husband and father he had become. When we traveled for work, I would mingle and often sought out experiences with women or enjoyed socializing as I was single. This was something we used to do together before he met his current wife. As time passed, we were both promoted and traveled together less frequently, if at all. This leads me to the incident and its aftermath. My friend, whom I will refer to as Jay, was informed that he needed to go to Tennessee for 2 weeks for work. Life continued as usual until I decided to visit a popular local bar that I seldom frequent due to it not being my preferred crowd. Upon entering, I saw my friend's wife, whom I will call Anne, sitting at the bar with two other women. My initial thought was to wonder where her child was while she was at the bar. I walked over to their group and asked her how she was doing and whether she had spoken to Jay that day. She mentioned that she had talked to him earlier and informed him that she was going out with some girlfriends. This was not unusual, as Jay sometimes told me he did not mind letting her go out occasionally since she was a stay-at-home mother and it could be challenging for her. I introduced myself and shook hands with the other women before moving on. I found myself drinking and playing pool with a random guy and a couple of younger women in their mid-20s. One of the women became quite flirtatious with me, while the other focused her attention on the guy I was playing pool with. Once the young lady and I began to get closer, and I tried to finalize my intentions, Anne approached and started to joke with me, lingering nearby. I assumed she was using me as a distraction from another man hitting on her, and out of respect for Jay, I refrained from mentioning anything. As the night progressed, Anne became increasingly touchy, to the point where the young woman I was interested in remarked that she was leaving because clearly you two have something going on. I attempted to explain the nature of my relationship with Anne, but she dismissed it, and I decided to leave the bar. As I was putting my jacket on, Anne wrapped her arms around my waist and told me that she really wanted to have sexual relations with me and that Jay would never find out. At that moment, I was furious and confronted her, expressing that she was crossing a line and acting inappropriately by attempting to interfere with my evening while betraying someone who had supported both of us. I then exited the bar as onlookers observed our exchange. Here is the situation. I intend to inform my friend about what transpired, but I am conflicted regarding when and how to do so. Part of me wishes to avoid contacting him while he is away because he does not need this burden while focusing on his job. I also fear that he may not believe me, as I never would have imagined she would behave this way given the length of time I have known her. Having just written that, it makes me question whether she has been unfaithful in the past, especially since she said what she did so readily. If anyone has encountered a similar situation, I would appreciate advice on how to handle it. I want to preserve my friendship but would want my friend to inform me of similar circumstances should the roles have been reversed. Thank you for reading. Update edit. Here is the fallout from my original post. The following day, when I arrived at the Denny's where I usually have breakfast before heading to work, my friend's wife Anne was waiting for me in the parking lot. She approached my car and wanted to apologize for her behavior the previous night, informing me that she had spoken to Jay about it. She claimed that she told him I had gotten drunk and cursed her out because I had misinterpreted her actions at the bar. She added that she was not angry with me, viewing me as a true friend to Jay and feeling that I was looking out for him. I asked her why she would lie to him, and I told her I was going to tell him the truth. She then questioned whether I was Jay's friend and whether I was genuinely looking out for him. Before I could respond, she stated that the only falsehood she told was that I misunderstood her actions and that she was indifferent to whether I ran and told Jay about our encounter or her apology, as she would simply inform Jay that she came to apologize for placing me in that situation. She concluded with no hard feelings and left. I immediately called Jay and we discussed everything. He expressed belief in my account and stated he was neither angry nor upset with either of us. He then mentioned that they had previously discussed me in a playful conversation about infidelity, where they contemplated who they would cheat with if given a single opportunity. She had said it would be me due to jealousy over how well Jay and I seemed to get along, viewing me as an extension of him, which I found somewhat peculiar. Jay humorously remarked that he had said he would be interested in her younger sister. He mentioned he let the conversation slide since he believed I would never pursue her. He then laughed and stated that now that he is convinced she genuinely tried to flirt with me, he is considering making a move on her sister when she returns home during spring break. I inquired whether he thought she had cheated in the past, and he responded that he did not have the time or energy to worry about it. He concluded that if she had been unfaithful, either he would be fortunate enough to discover it or fortunate enough not to find out, but regardless, he would move forward with his life, whether with her or without her. As for me, I consider this matter closed and no longer my concern. After learning all this, I now view Anne differently and will only interact or be friendly toward her in Jay's presence. Story 2. My fiancé of 6 years cheated while on a business trip, claiming he had a quarter-life crisis. After I supported him through unemployment, he calls it quits to pursue feelings for a girl he met traveling. Now he flaunts their relationship on social media. Disgusting. What happened to our love? I, a 29-year-old female, was in a relationship with my partner, a 30-year-old male, for over 6 years, having started to date during my senior year of college. Initially, we lived in the same city, but approximately 6 months into our relationship, he lost his job. At that time, he relocated back to his hometown across the country while I remained to work and was generally content in my own life. When COVID-19 struck, we were apart, but for the next 2 to 3 years, we visited one another, traveled together, and I traveled to his city frequently due to my work trips, seeing him every week for a year. At the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, he secured a new job in his city, and I decided I did not want to continue the long-distance relationship. I obtained a new, better job that included relocation funding, sold my condominium in my city in less than 3 months, and moved across the country. I was not aware at the time, but it was a significant decision. I left my hometown where I had grown up, attended college, and worked along with my friends and family to reside in his city with his friends and family. We secured an apartment together and I brought my cat with me. We were happy for about a year. One day while we were at a mall, he mentioned looking at engagement rings. Over the next 3 to 4 months, we discussed rings and we planned a trip to Europe, which was unrelated to the proposal. He proposed to me during that trip. However, following the proposal, it seemed he experienced a moment of realization. He began to express concerns he had, issues he had not raised for 4 to 5 years by that point. I was taken aback by the problems he identified, as I did not believe I had changed significantly, and we had been living together for at least a year by then. Our careers were stable, we had good friends, and we frequently hosted gatherings. I genuinely believe he was not ready to commit. I was his first serious girlfriend, and I think he was preoccupied with thoughts of potentially finding someone better. About 6 months after the proposal, he traveled to Asia for work for 3 weeks. I visited him for 1 week, and after I left, he joined a group tour where he met a girl who was traveling alone. They reportedly spent half a day together after this tour, and upon returning, he started video calling her on Facebook almost every other night. He did not inform me about her, and I discovered the truth when I noticed he was not at the gym as he had told me. Instead, he was conversing with her, and one evening when I attempted to contact him via Facebook Messenger, I received an error message stating, "This user is already on a call." Upon realizing this, I confronted him and requested to see their messages. He responded by saying something along the lines of, "Because we have problems, my mind, even if subconsciously, is wandering." I was at a loss for words. The messages seemed innocuous and could have been exchanged between friends, but I informed him that he was clearly having non-platonic thoughts about this girl and needed to cease communication as it was unacceptable otherwise. He assured me that he would stop speaking with her. 9 months later, we had attended couples therapy and attempted to resolve our issues. I genuinely believe we put forth effort. However, he began to withdraw, and every time we attempted to have a discussion, he would say, "I cannot do this." That evolved into "I want to break," which eventually transitioned to "I want to break up." In hindsight, I realize I prolonged the situation longer than necessary, and while he was pulling away, I should have removed myself from the relationship. At some point, he began communicating with her again, a development I believe occurred after he asked, and I agreed to continue living in the same apartment without speaking to each other. This arrangement, of course, was not beneficial. After 9 months of silence, he revealed that he had feelings for her, and a week later declared he wanted to prioritize his own desires and pursue those feelings. Whether this was a quarter-life crisis or feelings of oppression from immigrant parents, I knew I had to extract myself or risk losing my self-respect, so I suggested we break up. He moved back home as his parents lived nearby, and for the following 2 months we dealt with the logistics of moving out. Less than a couple of weeks after we officially ended the relationship, his male friends began following her on Instagram. She had a private account with only a few hundred followers, indicating that he must have introduced her. I later discovered that less than 2 months later, he traveled to Asia to see her. Shortly afterward, a couple's Instagram profile appeared, featuring a selfie as the profile picture with the tagline, "Our story, written with love by love for love." Everything about this situation is repulsive. From his friends following her, despite the fact that we had hosted them at our home at least once every 3 weeks and saw them bi-weekly, to his public display of a rebound relationship without regard for how others might perceive it. Is disappointing, his friends remarked that it was obvious he cheated considering the short time frame between our breakup and his new relationship. I am grateful to no longer be with someone who displays such a lack of character and have learned important lessons for the future. I also feel protective of my autonomy in future relationships, considering the power imbalance that occurred during our relationship. I supported him for nearly 3 years while he was unemployed. He admitted that he felt I was his sole support during that time, as his parents were making him feel bad about his circumstances and he was reluctant to confide in friends. Once he regained employment, he felt empowered to voice all the concerns he had suppressed and showed me disrespect. I have always been capable and deserving of someone who values me, and I regret not recognizing that sooner. I should have ended the relationship at least a year prior. Story 3. After 8 years and expecting our first baby girl, I caught my boyfriend lying for the third time. "Why can't you trust me?" he asks while hiding a suspicious app. My gut screams he's not being honest. What is he really hiding just before our big day? My partner and I have been experiencing a challenging time over the past month. I discovered that he was flirting with another woman at work, and he claimed that he ended it as soon as it began. This incident affected my trust in him, and when I asked if he could stop communicating with her, he initially refused. Some time later, we were still struggling, and he decided to go to a bar alone to clear his mind. He mentioned inviting only a couple of his male friends, but I wondered if he also invited the woman he had previously flirted with, insisting they were just friends. He never mentioned her. When he returned home, curiosity got the better of me, so I checked his messages on his watch and found that he had indeed invited her. She did not respond, so I assumed she did not attend. Regardless, when I asked him if he invited anyone else, he replied no. When I inquired if he invited her, he also said no. I urged him to be honest, and he became upset with me, asking why I could not trust him. At that point, I showed him what I found on his watch. This further undermined my ability to trust him and his words. Fast forward about another week, I noticed he was texting someone on his phone much more frequently than usual. He does not really have any close friends, and the ones he does have I usually only see him message for about 30 minutes to an hour at most. However, this particular night, he was engaged in conversation with someone on his phone for over 4 hours. Given my trust felt compromised at this point, I reached for his watch again when he was not around to check his messages. This felt out of character for me, but my instincts told me something was off. It turned out he was communicating with yet another female coworker. There were no clear signs of flirting, mostly harmless chit-chat with a few questionable messages here and there. She did not really reciprocate the questionable text, so I was not too concerned. The following morning, I asked him who he had been talking to for so long the previous night. He claimed he was only speaking to his male friends. I looked at him and asked him to please be honest. He did his usual routine of getting upset with me again, questioning why I could not trust him, the same old story. When I mentioned the woman's name, he fell silent. He had lied to me for the third time. He seemed guilty about it and said he was willing to change from that point forward. He agreed to let me see who he was talking to when I asked, and promised to stop talking to the first girl who caused the breach of trust. All this leads me to my main point and concern. About a couple of weeks after these exchanges, we began having arguments that ultimately resulted in us becoming emotionally and physically distant from each other. Earlier today, we were spending time together in our living room while he played his game. He became increasingly irritated the more he played, but there was another external factor contributing to his frustration, which was work. It escalated to the point where he could not focus and got up to lie down in bed. Concerned and still caring about him, I went into the room to help alleviate his frustration. I did this through physical touch, which is my primary love language. I encouraged him to take deep breaths while I applied pressure to his chest, rubbed his head, played with his hair, scratched his arms, and massaged his legs. This helped to mellow him out, which was my goal. We were lying in bed at opposite ends, holding one another while scrolling on our phones. He put his phone down, and in a brief glance, I noticed he was on an app or some website. The main color scheme of the app or site was red, with a red border around the screen and white boxes in the middle. It is difficult to explain since I only glimpsed it for a split second as he set his phone down. When I asked what he was looking at, he said it was Facebook. I told him what I had seen and that it could not have been Facebook. Suddenly, his entire demeanor changed, and he moved closer to me, starting to hug me tightly out of nowhere. Aside from my coming into the room to comfort him, we had not been physically close in a few weeks. So for him to suddenly hold me tightly and express how much he missed me caught me off guard. I asked if he would be willing to show me what he was scrolling on. Though he did not deny it, he kept redirecting me by saying he just wanted to be held for a minute. Each time I brought it up, he seemed to find a way to distract me. I chose to let it go in that moment because I missed that connection with him. After some time, we got up, went to the bathroom, etc. I asked him if he could show me, and he replied there was nothing there. Suddenly, that app or site appeared to vanish. He claimed he was clearing out apps before putting his phone down and had no idea what I might have seen. However, that app or site was still on his phone before he turned it off, so it should have been in his recent apps somewhere, yet it was not. I urged him to please be honest with me, and he insisted he truly was and had no idea what I could have perceived. He said he had no clue what might have happened. I told him I would trust what he was telling me and that he was being truthful because I was genuinely tired of the arguments and the lack of connection lately, but something just does not make sense and my instincts are telling me he is being dishonest. He is skilled at making himself appear truthful. If I had not had evidence during the last few instances to catch him, he might have successfully deceived me. I know the description of the app or site I provided is not definitive, but if anyone has any idea what he might have been concealing, it would hopefully clarify some things. Like I mentioned, this app or website had a predominantly darkish, vibrant red color scheme. He was willing to show me which apps he had, so to me that indicates it could have been a website. I do not know. All I understand is that my instincts are screaming that he is not being truthful and is getting away with it this time. I cannot stop thinking about it, and I do not know how to proceed. Edit, for additional context, we have been together for 8 years, share a house, and are preparing to welcome our first baby girl in the next 2 weeks. Story 4. Caught my boyfriend in a web of intimate messages with a coworker. I love you SOOOMUCHHH, and I should hold you in my arms. After nearly 3 years, I confronted him, but he claims it's just friendship. Now I'm left questioning everything. Can our love survive? Context. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost 3 years. Recently, in August 2024, he began working at a library as an apprentice. There's a girl there who is in her second year, and I met her once before in October. She's very friendly, and our meeting went well. Initially, we met because she wanted to meet me, and also because I am somewhat of a jealous person. I try to hide it for the sake of our relationship since I know it is my issue and has nothing to do with him. So it was a way to reassure myself too. Since the end of October, things have been challenging. My mother was hospitalized several times. She is okay now but is still in recovery, and my dog passed away less than a week ago. I had a very strong bond with him. He was my first dog. On Wednesday night, my boyfriend came to my house after work to spend the night. I had felt that something had changed for several weeks. He has been cautious with his phone. I had an uneasy feeling, so when he went to sleep, I chose to look at his phone. I would never have done that before. We always had a great relationship, open and communicative, and we have never had a fight. I found these types of exchanges on his Instagram with that girl, translated from French. I love you so much. I love it when you are against me, my chest, and vice versa. Actually, I love talking to you with at least a little bit of physical contact. I cannot wait to see you on Tuesday to hug you. Be careful, I will jump on you on Tuesday. Honestly, I should always hold you in my arms when I talk to you. I feel that this is really what I want every time. But I find that this poem has its place in our relationship. I will just imagine that we are sleeping together tonight if that is okay with you. I admit that it helps me fall asleep at the moment. And I do not want you to think that I am just fooling around to get sex or anything like that. Because that is not the case. If it were, I would be straightforward. Me neither, it is really the first time for me. It sounds a bit creepy, but I just want to. Finding a place where there is no one and let us hug and talk. You put yourself on me, I put myself on you, we touch hands and we talk about life. These are just snippets of conversation. I did not have a lot of time. It is just text that he has sent. And more than that, holding each other's hands, hugging, being alone together, they have been exchanging texts like that for more than 2 weeks. Obviously, I confronted him about it. He claimed that she is a friend and that they will always just be friends and that he never wanted more than that. Aside from hugging each other and holding hands, they have never kissed or anything like that. He went through a moment of euphoria where he couldn't control his emotions. The situation became chaotic, and he did not know how to tell me since I have not been very well lately. He acknowledges that some of those texts went too far, but he does not consider it cheating. He has also mentioned numerous times that it was only words. He continues with the fact that he has been alone nearly all his life. He has never had friends like that, and he has significant difficulties understanding human relationships. He also mentioned that he has the right to have close friendships. He told me that I was a bit immature about that too, and that she understands him in ways that I do not, but I am on a higher level than she is, so you cannot compare. I am his soulmate and she is just a friend. If necessary, he can delete her and never talk to her again. I confronted the girl too since we had been in regular contact. She and her boyfriend have a very open mindset, so she never saw it as more than just friendship, but when I confronted her, all she could say was that she was sorry and that it was never her intention to be that way. Now that she sees it, she is genuinely sorry. After talking extensively, I said a 2-month pause. Oh, did I mention that I am in an exam period? So we will reconnect in March. Since then, the girl has blocked me, I blocked her too, and they are still following each other. His best friend will not talk to me, which I understand, and yes, the moment I discovered the text, I had not even lost my dog 3 days earlier. So thank you 2025, what a lovely start to the year. But truly, I just want your honesty. Do you consider this cheating? For me, infidelity is not just about actions. Is there a future for my relationship? Because I do not think so, I cannot forgive him. Thank you for your replies and opinions.